When the World Cup starts, something happens to the world. Millions of people become emotionally invested overnight. They celebrate victories they didn't create, feel devastated by losses they couldn't control, spend weeks thinking about outcomes that have no direct impact on their lives. And yet something about it fills them, connects them, gives them something to believe in, something to belong to. But some people never feel that pull. They don't obsess over teams. They don't count down to championships. They don't build their identity around sports at all. And if you're one of those people, or you know someone who is, you've probably wondered why. Because here's what's interesting. Psychology suggests this difference isn't just about interests. It reveals something much deeper about how certain people find meaning, belonging, and emotional fulfillment in life. So today, we're going to get into it. But before we go anywhere, I want to challenge the assumption most people make about this, because it's wrong. Most people assume that not caring about sports means something is missing, that you're boring, antisocial, that you simply haven't found the right team yet, that one day it'll click and you'll finally get it. But psychology says something completely different. People who don't connect with sports are often deeply passionate people. They simply direct that passion toward different things, toward ideas, toward creation, toward understanding the world in ways that competition between teams doesn't quite reach. The world has always treated loving sports as default human behavior. It isn't. It's one very specific way the brain finds excitement, connection, and meaning. And some brains are wired to find those exact same things, just somewhere else entirely. Not caring about sports doesn't mean you lack passion. It means your passion has a different address. Quick note before we go deeper, this video isn't here to dismiss sports. Sports are genuinely powerful for billions of people. This is about understanding the people who don't feel that pull. Not judging either side, just understanding. And I think a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you've lived this. You've sat through Super Bowl parties feeling absolutely nothing, nodded along during sports conversations at work, been asked which team you support and felt that awkward pause of not having an answer, that half second where you decide whether to fake it or just be honest. You've watched people scream at a television genuinely emotional, genuinely invested, and felt like you were observing something from the outside, something everyone else had access to, something you didn't. And somewhere along the way, you started to feel slightly different for it, slightly outside the thing that seemed to connect everyone else. This video explains why that happens, not with opinions, with real psychology. We're going through 5 specific psychological reasons why some people simply don't connect with sports. By the end, you'll understand yourself and the people around you in a way you probably haven't before. Stay with me. But first, to understand why some people don't care about sports, we have to understand why most people do. Because the psychology here is fascinating. Sports aren't just entertainment. They tap into very specific, very powerful psychological needs. The deep human need to be part of a group with a shared identity. A team gives you that. A jersey gives you that. Standing in a stadium surrounded by thousands of people who feel exactly what you feel gives you that. Sports offer a safe, controlled space for intense emotion. Joy, anger, tension, relief, all experienced within the boundaries of something that ultimately doesn't threaten your real life. The unpredictable nature of sports activates the brain's dopamine system in the same way any high-stakes uncertainty does. The outcome matters because it can't be predicted. The experience of feeling personal pride through someone else's victory. Your team wins, and something in you feels like you won. The bonding that comes from watching together. The thing that connects you to your father, your friends, your community, across years and generations. These are powerful psychological needs. But here's the key thing. They are not exclusive to sports. And some people's brains are wired to meet every single one of them through completely different channels. So let's get into the 5 reasons. starting with the most fundamental one. Reason 1. Your brain finds meaning in different places. The human brain needs meaning. It needs to feel invested in something, to care deeply about an outcome, to experience the satisfaction of being emotionally engaged with something that matters. Sports provide that for most people. The game matters, the season matters, the championship matters. The investment is genuine and the emotional return is real. But some brains find that investment elsewhere. In creative work, the experience of building something from nothing and watching it become real. In ideas, the pursuit of understanding something complex enough to change how you see the world. In learning, the deep satisfaction of mastering something genuinely difficult. In relationships, the emotional investment in individual people rather than collective teams. It's not that these people lack the capacity for passionate investment. They often have enormous capacity for it. They simply direct it toward things that engage them more deeply than a scoreboard. Personality psychology describes a trait, openness, to experience a measure of how drawn someone is to ideas, aesthetics, and novel ways of seeing the world. People high in this trait are often deeply curious, intellectually engaged, and emotionally moved by art, music, and complex ideas. They're not less passionate than sports fans. Their passion is just pointed somewhere different. Reason 2. You don't need group identity to feel belonging. One of the most powerful things sports provide is tribal belonging. The feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. A community with shared colors, shared rituals, shared joy. The stadium full of strangers who feel, in that moment, like family. This is a real, fundamental human need. And sports fulfill it beautifully for millions of people. But some people meet this need differently. They find belonging through one-on-one connection rather than group identity, through conversations that go deep rather than crowds that go wide, through intellectual communities built around shared ideas, through the kind of belonging where being known matters more than being included. They don't need to wear someone's colors to feel connected. They feel connected through depth rather than breadth. Research on introversion and attachment tells us that some nervous systems are simply wired for quieter, deeper forms of belonging, forms that don't require group identity or shared competition to feel real. These people aren't less connected than sports fans. They're connected differently, through smaller circles, through the kind of belonging that doesn't require 70,000 people to feel complete. It requires one person who genuinely understands them. Reason 3. Emotional intensity through different channels. Sports provide enormous emotional intensity. The thrill of a last-minute goal, the heartbreak of a championship loss, the tension of a game going down to the final seconds. For many people, especially men, who are often socialized to suppress emotion in most contexts, sports are one of the only places they're given permission to feel big, to scream, to cry, to care with visible, unapologetic passion. But some people access that emotional intensity through entirely different channels. Through music that reaches something language can't touch. Through a film that changes how they see the world. Through a conversation so deep, it stays with them for weeks. Through creating something that didn't exist before and feeling the specific, private intensity of watching it come to life. The emotional capacity is identical. The channel is different. People who don't care about sports are not emotionally flat. They're often extraordinarily emotionally sensitive. They simply receive their intensity from different sources, and those sources deserve exactly the same respect as a stadium full of emotion. If you're recognizing yourself in any of this, or recognizing someone you love, you're exactly who UNFELT was built for. Subscribe and hit the bell. There's more here that was made for the people who experience the world differently and have never heard it accurately explained. Reason 4. You're wired for internal rather than external competition. Sports are fundamentally about external competition, one team versus another. The thrill of the contest, the comparison, seeing who is better. Some people are simply not wired for that. They're wired for internal competition, the desire to improve themselves, to master a skill, to become better, not compared to someone else, but compared to yesterday's version of themselves. Their drive isn't less intense. It's pointed inward rather than outward. They don't find satisfaction in watching someone defeat someone else. They find it in their own progress, their own quiet, private improvement that nobody else needs to see or validate. Watching external competition doesn't activate their reward system because their reward system is calibrated for mastery, not victory. Psychology calls this intrinsic motivation the drive that comes from within, rather than from comparison or external reward. People who are strongly intrinsically motivated tend to be deeply disciplined, self-directed, and quietly ambitious. They're not less competitive. They're competing in a different arena, one that doesn't require a scoreboard to feel meaningful. Reason 5. Your nervous system processes excitement differently. This one is neurological, and it explains something most people never consider. Different nervous systems have different baseline arousal levels. Some systems run naturally lower and actively seek stimulation through high-intensity external experiences, crowds, loud environments, the electric energy of a stadium. Other nervous systems run at a naturally higher baseline. They're already processing more than average, more sensory input, more emotional data, more environmental information. Adding the stimulation of a live game, the noise, the crowd, the intensity, can feel overwhelming rather than exciting. They don't avoid sports because they're boring. They avoid them because the experience exceeds what their nervous system comfortably absorbs. Research on introversion and sensory processing sensitivity confirms this. Some brains are wired to process stimulation more deeply, they feel more from less. And experiences that feel thrilling to the average nervous system feel like simply too much to theirs. This isn't a weakness, it's neurological wiring, the same wiring that makes them more reflective, more perceptive, and more emotionally responsive in quieter environments. Also makes the intensity of sports culture feel like more than they want to take in. They're not avoiding excitement. They're protecting a system that already has plenty. Now step back and look at all 5 of these together, because there's a pattern here that changes everything. The human needs that sports fulfill are universal. Belonging, meaning, excitement, competition, narrative, identity, emotional intensity. Those needs exist in everyone. The difference is simply that some people's brains are wired to fulfill those needs through channels that have nothing to do with sports. They're not less human, not less passionate, not less connected, not less alive. They're meeting the same fundamental needs through different doors. And recognizing that doesn't just explain a preference, it changes how we see each other. So let's be clear about what this video was and wasn't saying. This was never about saying sports are bad. Sports provide something genuinely powerful for billions of people. Community, ritual, emotion, identity, meaning, all real, all valid. This is about saying something different. The people who don't feel that pull are not missing something. They're not broken. They're not socially deficient. They're not less passionate or less connected. They are simply wired to meet the same fundamental human needs through different experiences. Neither is better. Neither is worse. Both are valid. Both are human. And understanding that difference rather than judging it is what actually creates empathy between the two. If you've spent your life feeling slightly outside the world of sports, slightly disconnected from something that everyone around you seems to share, understand this. You are not missing something. You are simply finding the same human needs met through different doors. Your belonging is real. Your passion is real. Your emotional depth is real. It simply lives somewhere else. And that somewhere else, wherever it is exactly where it's supposed to be. Before you go, 2 things. First, which of those 7 reasons resonated most with you? Drop the number in the comments. You don't have to explain, just the number. And second, what is the thing that gives you what sports give other people? What fills you the way a championship fills a fan? What makes you feel alive the way a stadium makes them feel alive? Tell me. I'm genuinely curious, and I read every single comment. If this video helped you understand yourself or someone you care about in a way you haven't before, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a video.